the panels, hashtag Stand with SIGA. We're policing all of your questions. Thank you very much for getting in touch if you engaged with our wonderful opening panel. Follow us on social media as well. SIG Alliance, that's SIG and then the word Alliance. Don't be fooled and write 2 A's. So SIG Alliance is our handle on Twitter. And Andalia is brilliantly manning stories as well. So if you'd like to be cooler, because our focus is on youth over the course of the next 2 days, then use Instagram stories. Send me a picture as well of when you're a little bit younger, when there are a few less wrinkles, because as I say, the whole point of this is to give youth a voice. But if you're over the age of 30, I'd love to see like an embarrassing photo of when you were a child, and tell me as well where you are watching from in the world. Get in contact with me either directly at Jacobs Ben or via SIG Alliance, SIG Alliance. We're so cool that we've missed out an A from our name. Let's move on then to our second panel of day one. It's entitled Creating Global Dynamics for Effective Cultural Change. And our moderator is Elda Gorka, the CEO of Genuine Effect. Alongside her for the next 45 minutes or so, it's a warm welcome to Angelica Munoz, the Project Programming Officer at ILO, Cynthia Mayer-Collin, the Training Manager for the US Center for Safe Sport. She's up bright and early, of course, if she's in the United States of America. Julian Alonso, the founding director of Audible Football Group. And finally, last but not least, Richard Saki-Addo, the education project manager at International Tennis Integrity Agency. This should be a really good panel, and it's over to Elda for the next 45 minutes. Elda, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Ben, and thank you very much for passing the line to me. And I see you made a very welcoming introduction to the distinguished panelists we will have on these minutes. In a couple of minutes, I will give the floor to them to introduce themselves, but on my behalf, I welcome everyone, Cynthia, Juan, Julian, and Richard, as well as Cynthia. So thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure to share with us the thoughts and to be able to contribute to this panel. We will be discussing on creating global dynamics for effective cultural change. And SIGA Forum, especially in this first ever worldwide event, is bringing to the youth the concept, the campaign, the mission, the feeling about the SIGA goals, about sport integrity, and about the role of the youth and the future leaders have in shaping a better world and improving the sport integrity in the sport world, but also in the community. We will talk about the global dynamics, and this panel will shine a light on the sports governance, and will explore whether traditional structures and governance models remain fit for purpose, or on the contrary, are in need of reform. The next generation of leaders are banging on the door. Now is the time to ask them how they feel about the pace of cultural change and what are they prepared to do to make it happen. Is evolution occurring? If so, is it progressive enough? Or is it time for evolution? And how can we trigger the dynamics? And now we kick off this panel, this session, by giving the floor. I give first the floor to Cynthia Mejia to introduce herself and to make her statement for being in this panel, and welcome her.
Hi, Alda, and good morning, everybody. It's 7:30 a.m. for me in Washington, D.C., so I really appreciate everybody joining, especially if you're from the States, but good afternoon or good evening if you are in Europe. So as Alda said, my name is Cynthia Mejia-Collin. I currently serve as a training manager at the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. So just to give you a little bit of background of what that means, the U.S. Center for Safe Sport mission is to make athletes' well-being the centerpiece of our nation's sports culture through prevention, education, and accountability. So in my role, I get to work with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic movement. So that means their national governing bodies, the Paralympic sports organizations. And it's really great because we get to have discussions about how we can make athlete safety their priority. So for those of you who are eager to work in sport, I just want to let you know, I absolutely love my job. It's amazing to see people within the movement become aware of how vital their role is in creating a positive environment that will help athletes thrive both on and off the field. So prior to working at the center, I have held positions at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and at the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C., focusing on prevention education, specifically around abuse. So having these uncomfortable conversations about abuse was difficult at first. But as I quickly realized, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm lucky to be able to share my knowledge and perspective with people around the country, and today with you all. I'm especially excited for today because we're going to be talking about holding ourselves accountable in the sports world. We often tell athletes to follow policies, to show discipline, to practice, to find innovative ways to improve. We teach them values like integrity, sportsmanship, and empathy. And when it comes to sports governance, we, regardless of what country, organization, or sports we represent, we owe it to our athletes who sacrifice so much to meet and exceed the same set of standards that we expect from them. We owe it to our athletes to have a mutual dedication to change that we want to see.
So thank you, Cynthia, for your intro and sharing with us what you do and what you believe in. And I'll be very much looking forward in contributing in how you think that we can create better interactions globally and affect the cultural change through sport and through the needs for evolution or new entries, also innovation, and also changing paradigms of thinking. So it's a pleasure for me to have you here, and on behalf of SIGA and SIGA Youth, I welcome you and thank you. The next, I give the floor to Julian Alonso. It's my pleasure to give the floor to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julian Alonso. I am the founding director of the nonprofit organization called Audible Football Camp. Audible Football Camp is focused in providing American football training and capacity for communities outside of the United States. So we are heavily focused on a very exclusive American football sport that has been having trends of globalizing in the last 10 years. We act as a change agent to create resources and to act as a touch point of aid for communities outside the United States who want to develop this sport in their country. So our values consist of creating equal opportunity to play for underrepresented communities, underprivileged communities. We look to create programming in communities that's most needed, one, and two, also creating programming that's culturally appropriate for the country or environment in which we're trying to create sport programming. And we look to create sustainable and long-term effective American football programming for communities. And so we work with a lot of inclusion, opportunities, equality in sport. We also look for integrity in the communities that we're working with. And so I'm very excited about talking with this topic with everybody because it's near and dear to my heart and the organization that we work with.
Thank you very much, Julian. And it's a pleasure to hear the vast variety of your experiences and also what are the foundations of the work that you do so that we can understand how the diversity and how the initiation of programs that are referred to sport, but as you mentioned, are culturally appropriate. And this appropriation, it's maybe the new challenge of the intercultural change in the world when we invest and when we prepare for new projects. So I believe in the way we are introducing ourselves, we are giving the opportunity to the public and to the audience to understand why our diversity will create the synergy in the differences we have to contribute to the common goal and especially to a better world through sport integrity. So thank you and congratulations for everything you do. Our highest respect, let's say, and welcome. The floor is now to Richard, and with pleasure, and then will be Angelica to introduce herself. Yes, Richard.
Thank you, Elda, and hi, everyone. I'm the Education Project Manager for the International Tennis Integrity Agency. So we are the anti-corruption body responsible for safeguarding the integrity of professional tennis worldwide, and we're based in London. I'd like to start off by thanking Ian Lindsay and the SIGA team for inviting me to be a part of this panel today and this great event. It's not often that there are industry events on this scale, specifically for the under 30 demographic. So I'm glad for once not to be the youngest or one of the youngest at a conference, which can sometimes make you feel a little bit out of your depth. So this is a really fantastic opportunity for all of us to get to know and learn from the next generation of leaders truly from all over the world within our industry. So thank you to SIGA for bringing us all together. I'd like to briefly say a few words about how I feel about sport and the topic we're discussing here on this panel today. So sport means everything to me. It's not just a way to lead a healthy lifestyle or my livelihood. Some of my greatest memories have come from either participating in or watching sport. And the power of sport for me can be a very important positive force to help bring society, communities, and individuals together. I've been lucky enough to witness firsthand the power of sport by having a home Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2012. And for anyone who was in London or the UK at that time, it was incredible to see just how much the Games brought our country together and unified us just for those few weeks by watching athletes running around a track, swimming in a pool, or hitting a yellow fluffy ball over a net. The values and the excitement that I experienced from the Games really made me feel, that I absolutely want to be a part of this industry, and that these values of sport need to be protected, they need to be progressive, and sports needs to be held accountable to the highest ethical and integrity standards. So I'd like to leave you for the moment with one of my favorite quotes that is something I live by and inspires me in my career, particularly in those difficult times. And it's a quote from the late to great Nelson Mandela. And the quote is, "Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. And sport can create hope where there was once only despair." Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of the panel.
Thank you very much, Richard. Indeed, it brings emotions to see that people and leaders not necessarily coming from the sport world are really referring without conflict of interest to the value of sport in society, and to point out to every one of us that sport seems to be a noble mission on its own and just not mere physical activity. Thank you for your introduction. Thank you for being here. And I think we will have very nice communication and discussions in the upcoming minutes together. So I give the floor to Angelica, and then we will go for it later on to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elda and fellow panelists. Thank you also to everyone that took the time to be listening in right now and later. Today, I am Angelica Munoz. I work for the International Labour Organization, and I see that from the panel, I am the one that has a slightly different outside of the sport area background. The International Labour Organization relates to everybody. I guess from my very personal perspective, everybody that is actively economic in the labor market. We are the only United Nations organization that has in its governance systems employers, workers, and governments together. And I am working right now in skills as a focal point of sports, because we believe that we have to integrate sports as a sectoral approach. In the skills development work that I am doing right now, I work at a policy level to integrate sectoral approaches to the legislation, so we can actually know what is going on in each of the sectors and what skills are developed. I believe that education is right now everywhere, including in the sports. And I have been working with the International Olympic Committee in reviewing how sports can provide young people with the core skills that are required for the future labor market. Because in the ILO, we are also observing that the skills that we are getting right now from the education institutions are not longer valid for what is actually happening. And we believe that sports have the capacity to provide young people with the core skills, transferable skills that they need to do different types of jobs in their career. So I am very happy to be here today discussing with all of you, and I hope that we can touch upon this important topic and I can bring some allies back to my work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angelica. It's such a delight for me to hear every introduction of every one of you, and the humbleness that you show. It makes me, it comes a smile in the eyes to understand, in the face and in the eyes to understand that the youth has so much value, and sometimes they seem like they are not ready for the moment that the world is expecting them to change the world on their behalf. We are talking today because for us and at SIGA, we believe that people with values within themselves, who evaluate the good governance, the integrity, the believing in a better world, and the role and responsibility that every one of us has to put into the world, they are now the already the future leaders that we were looking for. So I want to start our conversation by, I will introduce myself in 2-3 sentences, and then I'll say the question now, but I will expect for you to contribute after my introduction. When you were informed or invited for this panel, was there any moment that you thought maybe this is too much, or maybe you were not ready, or why you were chosen to be delegated or to be appointed or invited for this panel to contribute? Did you maybe think that it was early for you to join, or maybe you were not expecting that? And I introduced my role that today I am on behalf of SIGA and SIGA Youth Forum invited because of the 3 years and more than 3 years already that I've been involved and fascinated in doing pioneer projects that SIGA has been implementing, while I had the honor and the privilege to be the strategic advisor of the Olympic Committee, more especially to the president and recommending to the boards. So now, 1 year later, after I joined SIGA, I became also a SIGA mentor for the women. SIGA has a very powerful program for women, sport women in leadership, and we already have our mentees, and the program has started up. And while we were doing this program, the SIGA Youth was being conceptualized, was being built up, and it was already doing the first steps. And they are very ambitious steps, which brought to the day today that we are having this first worldwide SIGA forum. So I'm so glad that I happen to be the first to welcome you in the SIGA world, in the sport integrity movement, and to see that these leading organizations is looking for the contribution of the people who believe that they have a role to put in this society. So I will give the floor to you, and then I will be speaking again about SIGA, because I want you and the people that you know to get and recognize the I Stand with SIGA campaign, and we will get to know more even after the SIGA session about that. So once again, you choose who wants to start to kick off our lively and friendly discussion about the topic of this panel. Thank you.
Perhaps I can go in, Elda.
Yes.
You asked what we felt when we received this invitation, and actually I was very happy because, as I said, I was looking for people that is thinking the same I am thinking. I already had several discussions with within the team I am working in the ILO, and sometimes it's difficult to bring a new sector such as sports. And of course, when I say, okay, we can learn something that will serve us in the labor market in sports, is a kind of a challenging idea, and not everybody is comfortable with this idea. So I always try to challenge them and say, okay, have you already observed how people is learning nowadays? Are we only learning in school? Are we only learning when we do an apprenticeship, or when we do dual training, or are we also learning in other parts of our lives? And I think that pandemic is a very, very excellent example of how we are learning in every single thing we do, including sports. And you also mentioned in the introduction whether we wanted to challenge or to improve the governance of sports. And I think for me, more the guiding point for being in this discussion was to challenge the governance of education, and propose that the sports should be integrated into the education system and into the skills frameworks for the labor market. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for sharing. And who would like to speak next to say whether, do you believe that by this session we are really initiate or ignite the change and the global dynamics for cultural change, but what we are saying and by what you were invited to contribute to this panel?
Oda, I can go next.
Yes.
So to answer your previous question, I think when this opportunity was offered to me, I wasn't too surprised, because what I do for a living at the U.S. Center for Safe Sport is to have represent the center, essentially, to have open conversations, to have discussions, because those are things that really create the change. They kind of help people open their minds up to, maybe there's things I don't know. So I'm not big on like telling somebody what they need or to give like a presentation. I like to have these conversations, these discussions that are going to ignite some thoughts or changes, even if they're small changes that we can all do. So I think those are really important things. Of course, when I saw that SIGA was all about integrity in the sports world, I knew that that was the right fit for me. So when you're working with abuse prevention, integrity is the most important value for sure to talk about.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And for the upcoming colleagues that will contribute to the same answering the questions, and to Cynthia and Angelica, I'd also like to have later on this input, where do you see that sport can contribute to changing the world, to affect cultural change, and to maybe the dynamics of cooperation and international communication can make that this change becomes uniform in standards and integrity and in a wider geographical area that where we work or we live in. Thank you, Cynthia. Julian or Richard would like to take the floor. The floor is yours, guys.
I'll jump in, Elder. So yeah, I mean, as Cynthia and Angelica have said, of course, when sort of being asked to participate on this panel and be a part of the forum in this way, of course, it was a great honour to, and particularly when I looked at my colleagues who are here, you know, on the panel with me today. I was sort of looking through some of the work they do and the work they have done and thinking, you know, it's a pleasure to be with some really experienced people who are doing great stuff in their respective sectors. And of course, sort of thinking about, you know, back to my own experience and what I do in my day job. And, you know, have been fortunate to work in international tennis for the last 5.5 years. And, you know, of course, that's compared to some people, you know, that's a relatively short space of time, but that has been a period of time full of quality experience and really learning about how sport works at the highest levels and learning how other sports work as well. And then, you know, thinking I do have some very good things to contribute here from what I've learned, and that, you know, even if people are younger, you can sometimes, as I said earlier, sometimes feel a bit out of your depth when you're at events with people who have decades more experience than you. But again, it's about the quality, not necessarily the quantity of our experience. And at the end of the day, we all have a voice, we all have opinions. We should be allowed and feel comfortable in a safe place and in good environments amongst our contemporaries to share these. You know, and, you know, if I don't contribute to a panel such as this today, then, you know, when will be a good opportunity? So, yeah, again, fantastic to be with everyone on the panel today and to learn from others as well, from, you know, similar ages and similar levels of experience.
Thank you very much, Richard. In case you don't know, since the acceptance of contributing to the panel, we have been already, you know, adding value. And since the moment we started this session, we have, by introducing ourselves and being here and changing our thoughts and experiences, we are already part of the contribution of the world that needs to hear the voice of people who are directly in the field, leading or creating projects for a better world through sport. We will have, and I think, around 17 more minutes for us, and Julian, I will get back to you very soon, and then we will have like 10 minutes question and answers from the audience that are already following our session. So Julian, the floor is to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very excited when I was asked to join this the panel and the program. You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is representation. And being a voice for the people that haven't had the opportunity to speak or to be known. You know, I believe these global, you know, symposiums or conferences are important because we get to look at who's really out there. We get to say, these are the sports that are being represented. These are the people that are not. You know, how can we allocate the right resources to the right people? And that's what happens in these conversations. When I talk with people from different organizations, different perspectives, different sports, you know, we ask each other what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what happens in your organization and your cultures, and what can I bring back to what I do in my community. And so it's this sharing of ideas that really makes our work so important, because if we seclude each other and work in our own spaces and never, you know, create this collaboration, then I think a lot of our work goes maybe as ineffective, or maybe just not as progressive as we hope, So in order to create those global dynamics that we want to engage in, these conversations are necessary so we could have an accurate assessment of what's going on in our communities.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Julian, for stating this. I'm going to ask a question now that is open for you all, but you will give me time that I would want to say something else before you will answer that. The question is, while you were doing your job, internally, nationally, internationally, culturally, was there any aha moment when you have understood and maybe not expected that your job was much bigger, meant much more than you thought it meant because of the projects you did or the impact you created or the unexpected challenge that you had to overcome and work for? So this will be my question that I want to leave the floor to you after I say what I want to say with regards to the fact that SIGA invites everyone to #StandWithSIGA and to support the sport integrity goals. And if you allow me, I take the opportunity to introduce to you the sport integrity goals, because each time I read them, I reintroduce them to myself and I really love them. They fascinate me. Sport integrity goals go for good governance, outstanding ethical conduct, accountability, legality, and scrutiny. At sigasport.com, you can have more information for this, but I wanted really to say that these are the pillars of SIGA Sport Integrity Goals, and every organization that believe that they have a contribution to make in the world, even through sport, is expected that they represent the way that these organizations live and act by these principles of good governance, outstanding ethical conduct, accountability, legality, and scrutiny. So the floor now is to you to share with us where was a moment, if there was, when it was that you understood that working what you were doing was a much better, a much larger mission than you thought it was, and you impacted the world. Thanks.
Auda, I'm happy to take that one on if that's okay. So
Sure.
I think I have a lot of these. So I get to do trainings with national governing bodies around the US, with Paralympic sports organizations. And so going into a training or a conversation every time, when you work in this world, you know, this is like basic knowledge to you. It becomes secondhand information, or it's natural for you to know these things and to talk about these with your colleagues. But when you're talking to somebody that isn't in this world, it's really humbling to come out of a training thinking, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought it was tough coaching, for example, or I didn't realize that modeling my behavior was so impactful. So I think those are really valuable moments that I walk away with every single time I leave a training, where I get coaches or even staff members. Maybe it's somebody that works in human resources that doesn't have direct contact with athletes. They realize, wow, like the way that I model behavior truly makes an impact on sports and how athletes are going to behave both on and off the field. So I think those are my aha moments.
Beautifully to share, considering the fact that you know that this person and you go home and then they start next days and they continue their professional lives, but with a changed mindset because of that moment of being together with you. Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing that. Very much appreciated. Colleagues, the floor is yours.
I'll follow up from Cynthia, if you don't mind, guys. It's quite closely linked. I think some of our work to what I do at the ITIA is quite similar to some of the education training Cynthia was mentioning, in terms of we do have a lot of interaction with various stakeholders within our sport, be it the players, the coaches, the officials, the staff, many different groups. And it's, for me, one of the best parts of our job is what we do is educating people and making sure they're aware of the rules that they have to follow, following the tennis anti-corruption program. But one of the things that draws me to my job and really fires me up is our education program is very much about values and underpinning and providing values that players and other people can take forward. So not just knowing the rules, it's having the values and the good sort of ethics in themselves, the good ethical standards in themselves, to be able to make the right decisions consistently, particularly in those vulnerable moments when their coach is not around, when no other support is with them, that they're going to think back to something that we've educated them and told them in a session, and that is going to help them make the right decision between right and wrong. And they're going to, have the confidence in us as an organization in our sport as a system to be able to, if they're ever unsure or if they're not sure what to do, that they feel confident enough to come forward and ask for help and to ask for support, and that we can provide that. And so, you know, every time, particularly doing sessions with younger players, some of those who are quite new to the professional world or haven't quite gone professional touring the world in tennis, when we deliver sessions and you can see, you know, how their minds are sort of opened up and they're really feeling confident going forwards with what we've been able to tell them. And that's, for me, is a really good regular aha moment that I get from the work we do.
Thank you, Richard. And that's the world that you said is not based on London only. You refer to your experience worldwide, internationally in the projects, wherever you land or go online with your work, right?
Absolutely, yeah, that's it. And it is fantastic speaking with people from all over the world, learning about their respective difficulties and challenges, and being able to sort of link what we do with to how to help them respective to their environment.
Thank you. You're right. Thanks. The floor is to the other colleagues.
Thank you, sure.
Sorry.
No, I just want to share a little bit about my experience and my aha moments with Audible Football Camp. You know, one of the things that I've come to love about my organization and what we've been able to do is create opportunities where opportunities haven't been presented before. When we go into a country and we're trying to, you know, establish a sport in which they're calling for it, in which, you know, the youth in the community are saying, we're looking for new opportunities to play different sports. We're looking to kind of grow our mindsets of what sports look like in our country. And when we have that opportunity to go to a different country and provide them with that opportunity to do something different than what's normal for them, those are the moments where I think, wow, this is really impactful. When I have kids that come up to us and say, you know, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving us something that we wouldn't have otherwise. I think that's what makes kind of the moments where you're kind of second guessing yourself or maybe doubting of what you're doing, or if this is exactly what they actually want. It's when they reinforce you that they wouldn't have it otherwise, or they wouldn't have it because of your mission and your organization. I think that's what really gives us comfort on that we're doing the right thing and we're on the right path. So it's creating opportunity where opportunity really hasn't presented itself before.
Thank you very much, Julian, for sharing that, because I want for the youth that are following today, but will follow also in the future the replay of this session. I want them to understand that being involved in sport, it can open an horizon of immense opportunities to be able to contribute to the society through sport. It's not that sports is a side element of the society, but it can be one of the main pillars where the future change and development of the society and of the healthy world can be based on. So thank you for everything you're sharing. And then the floor is Angelica.
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very motivating question as well. My aha moments have always been in developing countries. And as I say at the beginning, the ILO is governed by employers, workers, and governments. But always when I talk and work with workers, I feel very motivated about the work that I'm doing because I see how it touches the people. And I can remember this time when we had a conference in Central Asia, and we were talking about the future of work and what it means for workers and what it means. And people were just coming to me and to my colleagues, and they were asking, how can I make sure that I will be able to compete with a robot or with a machine? And I think this is where the topic enters again, what I was saying. The way we learn and what we learn is not always in the schools, it's in everything we do. And that's what we always try to tell them, like, you have a lot to offer. Machines are not going to take your jobs. And those are the moments in which I see that the work that we do in the International Labour Organization actually makes a difference in everybody's lives out there.
Absolutely. Thank you for also sharing this with us. And really, I always believe in these sessions that the time that we dedicate is like leaving a sign and giving a contribution to the world so that they can understand that there are people who think and share and believe and have joy in the working based on values, based on a vision that they share and believe in. And it's that time when every one of you, even regardless if you know or don't know it, you are really shaping the change already for the future of the world. And I want to say that because of the work that every one of you is doing separately, the synergy of the sporting community comes together, even because of the contribution into this first ever worldwide SIGA Youth Forum. And if I may share with you, I gladly would like to say that even our session is being followed by the SIGA CEO, who lately is chosen to be SIGA. I wanted to say that it was not part of the let's say of the content of this session, but lately, last week, he joined the Reshape the Future and Include Share Act. Is like the D20 group, a worldwide group for the people and the leaders in the world, so that they can shape the future and lead the changes, societal changes in the world. Is a G20 group, and the CEO of SIGA, Emmanuel Medeiros, is G20, one of those G20 leaders. So he is also following us in our session. And I want to say that now, if you want it or not, you are not anonymous to him. And everybody, to him, to SIGA, to the SIGA community, and to the youth that are going to join together and be inspired to follow SIGA goals and to get involved in doing more than just sport to improve the world. I want to really thank you very much for everything that you shared. I'm open if you want to say something more, or maybe to make a question for other colleagues. We have also 4 minutes more to go. Then we will be open for the questions that already the audience has made for us and for you, and I will be addressing them. We will have the next 8 minutes after these 4 minutes to go through that. So if you want to comment something right now, if you want to add, or if you want to question something, just let me know. I'm here to accommodate you.
I think I want to do a comment, just a final statement. I feel like athletes and other people that collaborate with them, not only, when we talk about the sports, we are not only talking about people practicing sports, but about commentators, about volunteers, about people that make sports happen. And I think they all need support for making their transitions in their lifetime, because even athletes, they will also not do that for their whole life. And I'm just would like to make an open call for everybody that is listening in to take the chance to think about how they can be supported to make these labor market transitions and to go from a sport career to a non-sport career, and what we can do and international organizations to, at the policy level, improve these transitions and support everybody that would like at some point be part of the sports sector. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. How about the other colleagues? Would you like to comment?
So I would just like to say, I'm so happy that we're talking about sports integrity. I think that this is something that kind of goes hand in hand with life. Like, that's why at the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, we're always talking about making athletes, achieve great things both on and off the field. If you live your life with integrity, you're going to bring that into sport. And if that's something that we're teaching through sport, if we're teaching integrity, we're modeling it, we're showing it, then that's something that athletes will also, and staff members, governing bodies, administrator, coaches, the whole sports community, they'll be able to take that off the field as well and contribute to a better world. So thank you for having this conversation.
You're welcome. And I will, in a minute or so, we already have questions from our distinguished audience that are following us live, and they are writing in the chat box of the application that this session and the whole forum is going on online. But in the meantime, Julian or Richard, you had anything to say, or I can go forward? Maybe you're curious to listen to the questions.
Yeah, sure. I'd just like to add, from the work that we do at the ITIA and in our education team, one thing that we teach about education to people involved in our sport about integrity is that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And I think that translates not just to the athletes themselves and the coaches, but also to the governing bodies. Integrity is doing the right thing even when there's not a specific campaign or something going on at the time. It's always having the right ethical standards, the highest levels of ethical standards and integrity possible. And I think that often, sports need to be required to be more accountable to organisations such as SIGA, to WADA, the IOC, IPC, and as well as governments as well, to ensure their sports, they're making them as inclusive and accessible to everyone. And it's like everyone on this panel, making sure that sports are as safe to participate in from a safeguarding point of view, taking sports to participants who may not been able to participate in sports before, and again, as a source of employment and a viable career path for people, and ensuring that sport is an equal and fair playing field, and sport is something that the fans, ultimately we're all fans of sport, it's a product that we can all trust and believe in and really hold those values very, very dear.
Absolutely, and thanks for the input in this perspective for that. I'm going to make a first question because I see now, time passes by and we don't understand it, but it runs. So I have a question from Cynthia. This is done from Alejandro Castillo, Head of Marketing, CONADEP from Mexico City. The question is, what are the greatest challenges to prevent abuse from coaches? And maybe
so I think,
Please go.
I think the greatest challenge is dealing with the mindset that, well, this is just tough coaching, or this is the way we've always done it. We're pushing our athletes to be the greatest that they can be. This is for their own good. So it's challenging to go into trainings or having conversations with people that think what I'm doing isn't abuse, but it's coming from a different perspective. So something surprising that I thought when I came into this world that I learned when I came into this world was that emotional abuse is the most common form of abuse in sport. So at the center, we cover anything from bullying to hazing, harassment, physical and emotional misconduct, and sexual misconduct. And so I invite you to learn more. I could talk about this for hours and hours, but I invite you to learn more on athletesafety.org. We have a lot of free resources there, but a lot of the coaches, they're doing what they think is best for their athletes. And when we're talking about abuse, it's not just coaches, it's coming from staff members as well. It can be from the community, from parents, from their teammates. There's a lot of power imbalance things that are involved, or factors that are involved here. So I think that's, I hope that answers your question.
I think it gives a clear view, and I think that Alejandro Castillo, he also got the information on the website where to follow more through, and they can also contact you, and the HOVA application has made possible to continue to network and to exchange, to go more in deeper for the questions. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for sharing that. We have another question to all panel and another question for Angelica, but I'm going first with that. I will read them both, but then we will go first answering this one for all the panel. This comes from Nita Gicoli. She is MA in Sport Integrity and Ethics in Kosovo. And she asks, do you believe that sport should sustain its traditional model of autonomy? She is a brilliant student and now an Erasmus student continuing her studies, because I happen to know Nita and I'm so proud that she's following us. But I'll leave the floor to you. And the question for Angelica will be that how does the ILO work with sport organizations to ensure equal opportunities for female sports workers as much as male sport workers? This is done by Maureen Rosita Besong. It's a SEED program from Dakar and also a SIGA mentee. So first, the question is for all the panel, do you believe that sport should sustain its traditional model of autonomy?
I think that is not necessarily the way forward. Of course, every sport is very different in how they operate and how they're governed, but generally, what we know from organisations such as SIGA and WADA and other organisations is that sports need to be held accountable to someone or something. It's all too easy for sports to have too much autonomy and too much power for them to kind of carry on doing things the way they've always done them. And, we can get into habits where sports work in silos. There's no sort of sharing of information or best practice. And that is definitely not the way forward, kind of touching on what Julian was saying earlier, and that sports need to do more working together and being more cooperative, sharing best practice, and then also being held accountable to so that they're able to maintain high standards of integrity and high ethical standards.
When you say sport, is it about human or is it about institution?
Sports institutions and governing bodies, federations as well.
Which are composed by people, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yes, other colleagues would like to comment on this?
So with my experience in our organization, we work with federations, leagues, clubs in various countries, and we've seen different forms of structuring and governance for each league. And what I've come to learn is when there isn't kind of a standardized regulation of leagues and federations, you tend to find a lot of discomfort, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of kind of disconnection between teams and between leagues. And all that sort of starts to create barriers for the participation of the youth. And that's something that we've struggled with when we go into a country and we hope to give them great programming, but their governing structure is not at par, or it's not consistent with other countries. And so that's one thing that we hope to strategize and grow with in the future is creating a structure or a governing system where teams throughout local, countries and communities could work with and understand, standardized rules and regulations in which everybody has to follow. That's one way to maintain a fair play with different teams. And so the autonomy, it's valuable, but it's only if it's valuable if it's spread and disseminated against a lot of people.
Absolutely. I thank you for that, because we cannot say the autonomy is not needed. We are so happy that people have understood the role and respect the role of autonomy, but also responsible autonomy. It's one of the things that really makes people understand we are autonomous, but no, we shouldn't sabotage the opportunities for the communities. So thank you very much for the contribution, Alonso. I'd like to give the floor to Angelica because time is passing. And if in the meantime we have any minute left, please make me a sign and I will also give the floor to you again. Angelica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I see that we have only a couple of minutes, so I will be brief. In the ILO, we promote gender equality in everything we do, not only for accessing the labor market, but also promoting equal pay for work of equal value for women and men, and irrespectively of the gender. In terms of what we do to work with sports organizations, we have regular meetings with several sports organizations in which we discuss different topics, but being gender equality such an important topic for the ILO, we usually do this at a governance level, and it's part of the work of the organization in the governance body and in the International Labour Conference. And it's also one of the policies that we implement in everything we do. So everything has a gender component for the integration of equality in all our projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelica, and thank you everyone for the contribution. And I hope that the gentlemen and the ladies that make the question, they got the answers they wanted. I would invite Cynthia to once again mention what was the website, what athletesafety.com?
Athletesafety.org, yes.
.org. Thank you. That's a very good news to know, even from any one of us. I think this panel has a lot to discuss, but time is passing by, and I really want to thank you for the contribution. The panel was creating global dynamics for effective cultural change, and I believe that the world dynamics would mean that nothing can stay the same as it was, but it's not that we can say that things need to be changed or things are being done wrong. We just need to say that things need to adapt to the needs of the society, to the development, and as open-minded professionals, so with integrity and values, we can contribute by building a better mindset for people who get in touch with us and with our organizations to contribute to an improved culture in the world, be it changed one or be it an advanced one. And maybe we should create the pace, but we also should follow the pace and respect the past, but going forward by our contribution to make a better world through sport and sport integrity. I want to thank you, and I'm so sorry that this panel is going to miss. I think that we can make a whole conference with this topic and with the extraordinary young people that I had in this panel. I had the honor and privilege to motivate and to moderate. Thank you very much to SIGA and the SIGA Youth Forum Organizing Committee for giving the opportunity to me and to us to have this session. And I look very much forward to be in touch and to be in other future events. We have 1 more minute. If you want to say something, please do.
I just want to finish off with saying thank you so much for the opportunity of being here with this panel with everybody else. You know what, we were asked to make a statement of something that captures what we think this conference is about. And I just want to say that, you know, the culture may change, but the game stays the same. And so different cultures we may be participating in, but the sport that we love kind of never changes no matter where we go. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope to work with all of you soon.
Thank you very much. I love your statement, Julian. And it was a pleasure to get to meet you, everyone, and we'll be in touch, I believe, now that we got very good friends. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. And on behalf of SIGA, thank you very much for your time and thoughts that you shared with us. All the best.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra. I'm a proud member of Sport Integrity Global Alliance Youth Council. We are now in the full action mode and would like to invite everyone who cares about the future of sport integrity and sport industry to join us at the SIGA Youth Forum on 27th and 28th of January. We have been divided for almost over a year, and while this pandemic threatens an already fragile world of sport, it also provides a unique opportunity to address unresolved integrity issues and develop long-lasting solutions. To ensure that sport recovers with integrity, we are calling on all stakeholders to cooperate and navigate through the challenges in a joint manner and to stand with SIGA. Don't forget to download your app and update your contact information so that you can benefit from endless opportunities of networking with sport industry professionals, young professionals, and athletes just like you are. See you there!
For far too long, professional sports organizations and owners have threatened athletes with fines and even the loss of their careers to silence their voices. But this last year, we witnessed the public embrace of athletes across a broad spectrum of sports who formed a unified stance in support of human rights. This positive step forward was a crucial moment of 2020 that we shall not forget. Looking forward to 2021, we call on professional sports organizations, owners, and the public to value the integrity of athletes by not telling them to shut up and play, but rather creating the space for athletes to use their voices to help ignite positive change in our world.